It is day 4 of the war between Hamas and Israel. There is no sign of de-escalation. Hamas still has firepower in its arsenal, so the threat is far from contained. Where does that leave Israel? Well, we'll discuss their options, but first, let's look at the latest updates from the front line. Southern Israel has been fully liberated. Yesterday, we told you that a couple of Hamas holdouts still remain, but today we can tell you that all those have been taken back. Israel says it was an intense battle. They claim to have found 1,500 bodies of Hamas terrorists in Israel today, in Israeli territory. Let me repeat that. 1,500 dead bodies were found in Israeli territory. The Gaza border is now back in Israeli control. It is broken and destroyed in some parts, so Israel's army is now laying landmines in those areas, basically to prevent a repeat of what happened. But securing the border is not job done. Hamas rockets are still hitting Israeli cities, even this one, Tel Aviv. Air raid sirens have sounded at least 4 or 5 times. Each time we've had to take cover, and one of the hits sounded pretty close, maybe a few buildings off from here. So Hamas has not let up. They may have been driven out of Israeli territory, but their stockpile is not over. They're still lobbing rockets at Israeli cities. And to stop that, Israel will have to target Hamas military infrastructure. The question is, how will they do it? With more airstrikes or a ground invasion? Well, the airstrikes continue. The death toll has reached almost 1,600. If you remember, it was around 1,200 yesterday, so that's 400 people dead overnight. Israel says around 900 of their citizens have died. 900 Israelis, including some foreigners. In Gaza, it's around 700. We are not including the Hamas terrorists in the toll, the 1,500 bodies that have been recovered. Thousands of Gazans have been injured and hospitalized. Many more have fled their homes. Take a look at these pictures. They are from the Gaza border. Israel has deployed dozens of military vehicles and tanks there. They've also called up 300,000 reserve soldiers, 3 lakh soldiers, so they're planning something big. Maybe a ground invasion. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has not officially confirmed this, but reports say it is happening. That Netanyahu has already informed Joe Biden about it. He says the strikes on Gaza are just the beginning.
The pictures of the destruction and ruin of Hamas strongholds in Gaza are just the beginning. We killed many hundreds of terrorists, and we won't stop there. I said that from every place Hamas operates will be in ruins.
So Israel is ready for the long war. But what about Hamas? Well, they're sending out mixed signals. Senior Hamas leaders say a truce is possible. After all, the situation is pretty bad. Israel announced a complete Gaza siege on Monday. No food, no water, no fuel. That's what they announced. Plus, they have increased their airstrikes. The United Nations says around 800 housing units in Gaza have been destroyed. More than 5,000 have been damaged. Maybe this furious response has spooked Hamas. But then again, what did they expect? Hamas has launched 4,400 rockets into Israel, according to one count. They've killed hundreds of innocent civilians. So Israel's response is brutal, but also expected. Plus, the Hamas leadership appears split. Like we mentioned, some leaders are talking about a truce. Others say they're ready for a long war.
The Palestinian people will be patient and withstand. We have reserves that can last us months. We are not cut off. We held up for 51 days in the 2014 war, and we are ready to withstand many months. But will Netanyahu be patient? Will the people in Tel Aviv be patient in the shelters?
And Hamas do have some leverage. They have taken Israeli hostages. Some reports say more than 100 of them. Their families are putting pressure on the Israeli government. They want Netanyahu to negotiate. And Hamas knows this. They've issued a threat to Israel. They say hostages will be killed if civilians in Gaza are attacked. So it's a tough call for Israel as well. Meanwhile, there is movement in the north. That's Israel's border with Lebanon. In the north, plans are being made for a possible evacuation there. The big fear is the Hezbollah. It's an Iranian proxy group. The Hezbollah have already fired rockets at Israeli positions. Israel then responded with airstrikes of its own. At least 3 Hezbollah militants were killed in that attack. So the question is, will they join the war? And if they do, it's more trouble for Israel. Diplomatically, too, there are some issues. Reports say Saudi Arabia has stopped normalization talks with Israel. It was supposed to be the deal of the century, the Saudi-Israel deal, but Riyadh seems to have pulled out. They have relayed the decision to Secretary of State Antony Blinken, and chances are this will be a long pause. You cannot discuss normalization in the middle of war. The Arab sentiments will not allow it. And Iran is pretty thrilled about all of this. Reports say they plotted this attack with Hamas, the Iranians did. But officially, the Iranians have denied all such reports. But statements from Tehran make it a tough sell. Their supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, says he kisses the hands of those behind the attack. Listen to this.
Supporters of the regime of Israel and some people within the usurper's regime itself have made false statements in the past few days and continue to do so, including that the Islamic Iran is coming behind this movement. They are wrong. Of course we defend Palestine. We defend the struggle. We kiss the hands of those intelligent and brave Palestinian youths who planned the attack on the Zionist regime.
Meanwhile, countries are scrambling to evacuate citizens from Israel. Most regular flights have been cancelled, so you need to charter flights for evacuations. Many countries are doing so. The likes of Thailand and Mexico, they're arranging planes. They want to fly their citizens out of Israel. Earlier today, Prime Minister Netanyahu dialed Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and he updated the Indian Prime Minister on the ongoing operations. On his part, Modi expressed solidarity with Israel yet again. He also condemned Saturday's terror attack. So Netanyahu is keeping his allies in the loop, and all of this hints at a spiraling war, a situation that will get worse before it gets better. The signs are all there. Like I said, Israel has mobilized 300,000 troops, 300,000 in 48 hours. It is the biggest call-up since the 1973 war. You don't do that without a plan.